Everybody, welcome to the Unit 4 review sheet number 1 on expressions and equations. Question 1. Which expression is equivalent to 1/3 times 9g minus 2? So since we have an expression here with parentheses, to get rid of it, we can multiply. So 1/3 times 9g. So before we do that, we can also make this a fraction, put it over 1. So if we multiply our numerators, 1 times 9g will give us 9g over, multiply our denominators, 3 times 1 is 3, so we'd get 9g over 3. Now we need to multiply again, since we have another term inside, so 1/3 this time. I know it says minus 2, but we treat that as a negative 2. Okay, same idea. Let's make this a fraction, put it over 1. Multiply our numerators, 1 times 2. Actually, 1 times negative 2 is going to be negative 2. And our denominators, 3 times 1 is 3. We can simplify this. 9g divided by 3 is going to give us 3g. And then we just bring down the minus 2/3. We cannot combine these. These are not like terms because the first term, 3g, has a variable, the letter g, while the second term, the negative 2/3, is a constant. It doesn't have a variable. So nothing else we can do here. Our answer is just this, which is choice D, 3g minus 2/3. Okay, question 2. Question 2, we have a rectangular garden with a length of 6.8 meters and a perimeter of 20.6 meters, and it gives us this equation to solve. So we know what to do, equal sign, draw a line. Now before we do anything else, we also want to get rid of these parentheses like a number 1, so we multiply 2 times 6.8, which is going to give us 13.6. Again, use calculator if you have. Let's just double check. 2 times 6.8. There we go, 13.6. Okay, bring down everything else in the problem that you have not used yet. So plus 2w equals 20.6. Now we have 2 steps to perform. We want w to be isolated by itself on the left side, but looking at it, we should see that it has a constant in front of it, the term positive 13.6. So the opposite of a positive is a negative. So we need to subtract 13.6 on both sides. Again, the goal is to move everything away from the w. So 13.6 minus itself is 0. Just cancel that. Bring down the positive 2w that we haven't used yet. Bring down our equal sign. And 20.6 minus 13.6 is just 7. Now what operation do we see? Well, we should see multiplication. It says 2w, which means 2 times w. Since we're looking at multiplying, we perform the inverse or opposite operation. Opposite of multiplying is division. So divide both sides by the coefficient of 2. Remember, coefficient is just a number in front of the variable that's multiplying it. So 2 divided by itself is 1. Just cancel it out. Bring down w equals 7 divided by 2 is 3.5 if you are doing fractions, or 3.5 if you choose to write as a decimal. So answer is C, 3.5 meters. Okay, question 3. Question 3, we have another equation to solve. This one also has parentheses. We have covered another way to solve questions with parentheses. It's a little bit more advanced. If you're comfortable doing it that way, you can. That way would just be to divide by the 5.1 on both sides. What this would do is make the numbers a lot smaller since you're dividing. But I know many of us are just so used to multiplying using distributive property, so we can do that for this problem. Numbers will be a little bit bigger in the beginning, but that's okay. We'll still get the same correct answer. So let's multiply 5.1 times x. Actually, equal sign, draw the line. 5.1 times x is 5.1x. Then we need to distribute again, since there's another term in parentheses to get to multiply. So 5.1 times 2. Again, you can use your calculator if you need, but we get 10.2. So plus 10.2. Bring down the other side, so equals 11.22. Now we have two more steps. We want to isolate, or but we should see the constant, which is positive 10.2. And to get rid of a positive, we have to subtract, since that's the inverse or opposite. So subtract 10.2 on both sides. Now when you're doing this, be careful. Here's what you do not want to do. I know some people tend to make this mistake. They'll subtract, but they'll line up the 1 there, the 0 here, the decimal here, and the 2 there. Well, you're going to get, number 1, the incorrect answer if you do it this way. But the reason you do not want to line it up like that is because, look, they have decimal points for a reason. You keep the whole numbers with the whole numbers and the decimals with the decimals. So the 11, that's a whole number. On the bottom, the 10, that's a whole number. So I can't have the 0 here under the 2. What I will have to do is to line up my whole numbers, 1 there, the 0 there, decimal underneath that decimal, and the 2 underneath that 2. Now, if you want, you don't have to, but if you want, because it may look a little bit strange, just have an empty space right here. What you want to do, you could just fill that in with a 0, because 10.2 is the same thing as 10.20, same thing. So it doesn't change the value. Okay, so let's draw a line. We haven't used the 5.1x yet. Let's bring that down. 10.2 minus itself is 0. Just cancel that. Then bring down our equal sign. 11.22 minus 10.20 would just be 1.02. Again, use your calculator to double check, because with decimals, it's very easy to make a mistake. 11.22 minus 10.20, see, is 1.02. And now what operation do we see? Well, we're looking at multiplication. Since it says 5.1x, same thing as 5.1 times x. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So we have to divide both sides by the coefficient, and that number that's in front of x, which is 5.1. So left side 5.1 divided by itself is 1. Just cancel that. Bring down x and equals now 1.02 divided by 5.1 gives us an answer of 0.2, which is choice C. X equals 0.2. All right, first 3 questions are complete. Now time for number 4. 4 says, which expression is equivalent, meaning the same, equivalent to 3.7 plus 5k minus 2k plus 1.3. So this really just wants us to simplify. We simplify by combining like terms. So do I have any variables, any of the same letters? Yes, we do. Circle the operation. Positive 5k minus 2k. This 5k minus 2k would give us 3k. But do I have any other like terms? Yes, I do. I have constants, which are numbers that do not have variables. In this case, 3.7 and plus 1.3. So notice how I did something different to group the terms. I underlined the constants and I chose to circle the ones with, right? So I did that because they're not all like terms, so I couldn't circle all of them. So I circled one group of like terms and underlined another pair. Again, you can do whatever you want. You can draw a triangle, a box, a circle, underline, whatever. Just make sure that you keep the different like terms separate. So now I'm going to do the underline part, 3.7 plus 1.3, which just gives me a positive 5. So our answer is 3k plus 5. Okay, number 5. 5 is asking, can the following terms be combined? Yes or no? And why? So it says 5b squared, or to the second power, minus 14b plus 6b cubed, which means to the third power. So can I combine these? Are these like terms? So be careful. You may be tempted and say, well, yeah, they're like terms. Look, this has a b, this has a b, and that has a b. So far, that's correct, but that's not the only thing to look at. Remember, like terms can have the same variables, yes, but they also must have the same exponent to be a like term. So if you look here, this says b to the second power. This is just b by itself, which is technically to the first power. And this says b, but to the third power. So none of them have the same exact exponent, which means that although they have the variable b, none of them are like terms. There's nothing to do with this problem. We can't combine anything. So, correct answer for this is D, which says no, they're not like terms because each term has a different exponent. So we cannot combine them. So that's our answer. All right, question number 6. We have another equation. It says 8 times z plus 2 equals 64. Now, if we just look at number 3, where we used the distributive property and we multiplied, we can do the same thing again for number 6. Multiply 8 times z, 8 times positive 2, and go from there. But since I already showed that way for number 3, I'm actually going to do the other way that we learned. So instead of multiplying, make the numbers bigger, I can make it smaller by dividing. So I'm going to divide by that number on the outside, that 8. 8 divided by itself is 1. We can just cancel that. Remember, equal sign, draw a line. So by doing this, I'm just going to bring down what I haven't used yet. Z plus 2 equals, and 64 divided by 8 is 8. Now I just have one step left. To get the variable z by itself, I have to get rid of that constant, that positive 2. And the opposite of adding 2 is to subtract 2. So do that to both sides. And we're going to get z, bring that down. 2 minus 2 is 0, cancel that, equals, and 8 minus 2 is 6. That's answer choice A. Z equals 6. Let's scroll down a little bit. I'll actually just do that problem again quickly with you using the distributive property. This way you can just see that you will get the same answer if you do it a different way. Okay, I'm going to go a little fast on this one since we know that the answer should be 6. But here we go. Equal sign, draw the line. If you want to do number 6 by distributing, 8 times z is 8z. 8 times positive 2 is positive 16. Bring down our equals and 64. To get rid of the positive 16, we subtract. That's the inverse, both sides. Bring down our 8z and our equal sign. 64 minus 16 is 48. And the last step, we see multiplication, so we do the inverse there and divide by 8. 8 divided by 8 cancels. Z still equals 6. So as you see, whether you do it one way or another way, doesn't matter. You still get the same solution. Z equals 6. Okay, so use the method that you are more comfortable with. So with that being said, I'll just erase this. This way we get back some more space on our screen. And move on to number 7. So number 7 says to find the perimeter of the figure below. Now it may be a while since you have seen perimeter, but it means just to add up the sides. The hint also tells you fill in all 4 sides and then combine the like terms. So let's draw the picture that's given. We have the rectangle, and the side says 4m minus 3 at the bottom, says 6m plus 4. Remember the hint said fill in all the sides. So we know a rectangle, if the bottom says 6m minus 4, well, the top also should say 6m plus 4. By the same token, we know if the left side says 4m minus 3, we know the right side also is 4m minus 3. Okay, now we've filled in the sides. Now it's time to just combine the like terms. So let's focus on our variables. We have 6m plus 4m, which would be 10m. 10m plus 6m is 16m. And 16m plus 4 is 20m. So let me just write that out before I just write an answer. So 6 plus 4 plus 6 plus 4. So this gave us 20m. And I will just use a different color here to underline our constants. Now you could do this in any order. I prefer to do the positives first and then the negatives, just because, doing negatives first, some people get confused. So I'm just going to say positive 4 plus 4. See, it says plus 4. Now it says minus 3. And this also says minus 3. So 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. And 5 minus 3 is positive 2. So that means the perimeter for this rectangle is 20m plus 2. Again, I can't combine because this has a variable and this does not. So they're not like terms. So that's our answer, 20m plus 2. Okay, question 8. It says use the GCF to factor this expression. 5ab minus 35b. Okay, so GCF, greatest common factor. What that means, again, we've covered it quite a few times. We have to find the number that is common to both terms, and, if we can, the variable that's common to both terms. So quick refresh. I know it's probably been a while since we've seen it, but GCF, we should just list factors. So what times what can give us 5? We know 1 times 5. Okay, how about 35? What times what gives us 35? Well, 1 times, and I'm going to leave a space, I'll tell you why in a second, but 1 times 35, and the only other way to get it with two numbers with no remainder is 5 times 7. So I left that space because I personally like to just put the numbers in order. It's just easier that way for me. So these are all the numbers, the factors of 5, the factors of 35. Remember, that's the G part, or the F part, factors. Now we look for what's in common, meaning it's on both rows. So I see a number 1 here and here. I also see a number 5 here and here. And now I just do the greatest. So the greatest out of the blue numbers that we've underlined that they both share is the number 5. So I circle that. Now that's not the only thing they have in common. Let me just move it down a little bit so we can see a little bit better. So we took care of the number part, but next to the numbers, they also have variables. In this case, use a different color. For the number 5, it said we have the variable a and the variable b. For the number 35, I just have the variable b. So you can see that they also have a variable in common, which is the letter b. Okay, now that we've identified what they have in common, meaning what they share, what we're going to do is divide by the GCF, the greatest common factor. So what do they share? What number? Well, we see here they share the number 5, right? So I'm going to divide by 5, but not only 5, I also see that they share the letter B right here and right here. So the greatest common factor is not just the number 5, but it's the term 5b. So I divide both sides by the GCF 5b. Just move this out of the way a little bit more. And I'm not done yet. I take that GCF one more time and I write it one more time because it's going to go on the outside of my expression, meaning that's the GCF, that's what they share. Now on the inside where I just put parentheses, this is going to be what they don't share. So meaning after I divide, what's going to be left over? So let's divide. 5 divided by 5 is 1, so I can cancel those. B divided by B is also 1. Remember, anything divided by itself is 1, so those cancel. But look, I still have a letter A left over. Okay, so that A is going to come down here in the parentheses because that's not something that's in common to both of the terms. So everything that they share in common comes on the outside. Everything they don't share that's not in common comes on the inside with parentheses. Next, I see a subtraction symbol, so I just bring that down. And now I just divide on the right side. 35 divided by 5 is 7. B divided by itself, B is 1, so we can just cancel that. And now we're done. We've finished factoring. So 5b times a minus 7. Okay, let's go down to the last couple. Here we have number 9. Number 9 is a word problem. Kathy has only $84 to spend at the mall. She wants to buy an outfit that costs $59.50, including tax, and some accessories that cost $3.50 each, including tax. Write and solve an equation to determine x. So what do we know? So that's our total. Let's just put it all the way at the back, leave some room. So something, something, something equals total of 84. Says she wants to buy an outfit that costs $59.50. So let's, and, okay, that means plus, some accessories that cost $3.50 each. So let me just get some more space, move this over. So $3.50. And it's saying use the variable x to represent the number of accessories she can buy because each one is $3.50. So 350x. Okay, now our equation is set up. Equal sign, draw the line. We want x to be left by itself, but we have that constant, $59.50, that we need to move from that side to the right side. So the opposite of positive 59.50 is negative. So we have to subtract $59.50 on both sides. If you want to, you can also add some cents to the 84 just to line up the decimals. You don't have to, but you can. Even if you don't, you'll still get the same answer. So 59.50 minus itself is 0. Just cancel those. We haven't used the 350x. Bring that down. 3.50x equals. Now 84 minus 59.50. You can use your calculator if you choose. $84 minus 59.50 is 24.5. So in dollars and cents, this actually means $24 and not 5 cents, but 50 cents. And now what operation are we looking at? We see multiplication. It says 3.50x, which is 3.50 times x. The inverse or opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we divide both sides by that coefficient, that number in front of x, which is 3.50. 350 divided by itself is 1, so cancel. Bring down x and equals. And now let's divide. $24.50 divided by $3.50 equals 7. So to answer the question, Kathy can buy 7 accessories. Okay, here's number 10. Another word problem with an equation. It says Vernon built a shelf that is exactly 30.5 inches long. He wants to place the shelf in the center of a wall that is 60 3/4 inches wide. Solve the equation, and I'll just write it. It says 30.5 plus 2x equals 60 3/4 to determine how many inches from the edge of each wall he needs to place the shelf. Okay, so we just have to solve this equation. Again, there are different ways to do it. You can keep them as fractions if you want, but I know some of you do not like fractions, so what you can do instead is just convert these numbers into decimals if you prefer not to deal with fractions. So to do that, again, I'll just do it off to the side so you can see. So converting 30.5, keep that whole number 30, and now you're going to get the decimal form for 1/2. So that's 1 divided by 2. That's 0.5, and what you do is just add it. So 30, or if you want to line it up, 30.0 plus 0.5 is 30.5. So this is actually 30.5. Then you can convert 60 and 3/4 using the same method. Keep the whole number 60, so 60.0 plus, and then you want to just divide 3 divided by 4 to see what the decimal is, which is 0.75. And when you add that, you're going to get 60.75. So this 60 and 3/4 fraction can also be written as 60.75. Again, if you want. You don't have to convert the fractions into decimals. You can keep everything as fractions and you'll still get the same correct answer if you follow the proper steps. But I'm just giving you this option down here in case you don't want to deal with the fractions. So if you do decimals, your problem will say 30.5 plus 2x equals 60.75. So equal sign, draw the line. We want to get x by itself, but we have that constant term of 30.5. That's positive. To get rid of it, do the inverse. So subtract 30.5 on both sides. Again, just make sure you line it up. Do not, I repeat, do not do this. And put the 3 here, the 0 here, the decimal way over here, and the 5 here. Because look, the decimal should be lined up with this one, not this decimal here and this one over here. If you do that, you will get the incorrect answer. So line up the whole number, which is 30, underneath that whole number, which is 60. Line up the decimal under that decimal, and put the 5 here. If you want, because it may look a little strange for it to be nothing here, right in that empty space, you can fill it with the 0, and you're good to go. So 30.5 minus itself is 0. Just cancel that out. Bring down your 2x equals 60.75 minus 30.50 is 30.25. And now what operation do we see? Well, we're looking at multiplication because it says 2x, which is 2 times x. To do the inverse, opposite of multiplying is we divide by the coefficient, which is the number in front of our variable. This time it's 2, so we divide both sides by 2. 2 divided by itself is 1, so cancel that. Bring down x and equals. 30.25 divided by 2 should give us 15.125. And we have to label, so inches. Let's just double check. Again, we should always double check. 30.25 divided by 2. Yep, C is 15.125. So if you went with decimal, that would be your answer. And let me just move this down slightly. Or if you went with fraction and you did all the same steps, you would get an answer of 15 and 1/8, which is 0.125. So either of these are correct. They're both acceptable answers. Again, if you want to do fractions, that's fine. If you want to do decimals, that's fine. But either way, there you have it. Okay, so thanks for tuning in. Make sure you reach out to me if you have any questions. Make sure you rewatch this video. You can pause and rewind. And please practice. Catch you on the next one.